Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another night of IDS Connections. Hopefully, weather and temperatures and rain and wildfires are behaving themselves wherever you guys are. Wanted to take a minute as we're letting folks come in this evening to remind people we are coming into, some nasty summer storm season. Here on the East Coast, we're coming up on hurricane season, thunderstorms and things like that this time of year. So if your diabetes management relies on electricity, make sure you've got backups. If your Dexcom's on your phone or your receiver, it's going to need a charge, and summertime weather especially can knock power out for days. So make sure you've got those battery pack backups. I have like 5 of those just charge packs for cell phones that I keep around because I've got my tandem pump and my phone that I want to make sure are both staying charged for my diabetes management. Also make sure you've got a way to keep your insulin cool in a pinch, Frio packs. If you don't have a Frio pack or something like that, you can wrap your insulin vials in a cloth or a towel with water and put it where the air will flow around it, and evaporation will help keep them cool. If you know anyone in the country or in Puerto Rico that is in need of supplies, especially with hurricanes and storms moving in and wildfires and things like that, people are displaced and can't get their shipments, or they're out of income and can't get their stuff, get them connected with us here at IDS. We get donations from our community and we try to meet them with the need. So that's my summertime housekeeping. You guys are in for weight management and type 1 management part 2. We are joined once again by the wonderful Miss Sarah, one of our dietitians here at IDS, who also heads up our weight management program. And I was just telling Sarah, I was like, this is really going to be kind of the Sarah show tonight, because I, as a nurse, I know nutrition, but I feel like I kind of know it like we all learned in like the 7th grade. Like, okay, like here's like the food pyramid, and eat more fiber and less sugar and fat. But the more I learn about nutrition, especially in our modern world with so many food choices, is that there are a lot of foods that I just haven't explored, and a lot of foods that I assumed like were one thing and they turned out to be another. So I'm going to throw it your way, Sarah. And if, as always, hit the chat button down below. If you have any questions, I can throw them out Sarah's way, and we can do some Q&A tonight as well.
Sounds like fun. Thank you for the introduction, Alicia, and everybody. I'm super excited to talk with you a little bit about kind of the food puzzle and where that fits into the weight management equation for many of us. So, and when Alicia had suggested I come back and do a little bit more of a food tour, I was secretly hoping for a little bit of a smaller audience, because I think sometimes the Q&A keeps us focused, especially with some of the needs that everybody has. So don't hesitate to pop some things into the question box, into the chat box. I love to make sure that we're addressing the hot topics in the room, and also make sure that as we're going along, if we need to clarify points, we certainly can do so. So before we hop in, I guess I have some kind of just overall general strategies. What has been shown to be effective? What can we try? What are some different kind of outside the box things that we know from a research perspective are really, really great for a weight management perspective? I want to talk a little bit about that, but I want to talk about kind of overall what we're going for, what we're trying to create when we're thinking about long-term sustainable weight loss. As a dietitian, my background as a dietitian, I've done a whole lot of schooling, a whole lot of training, but all of this emphasis to really, really get a grasp on not only diabetes, but particularly this weight issue. And one of the things that I feel like I hear most from people when they find out what I do for a living, they ask me, what about low carb? What about keto? What about the Atkins diet? So, and this is the first thing that I hear from most people. I mean, honestly, at a dinner party, wherever, people think that this is the one and only strategy to use in order to achieve weight loss. So, and what I often take things back a little bit, and I explore what are we trying to accomplish. So certainly low carb is one of those approaches that can be used for weight loss. We know that just in any dietary strategy, when we're implementing it, we see really great results initially. And then any dietary pattern that happens, or any diet change that occurs, weight regain naturally happens. So at a point of about 6 months, even up to 5 years after the fact, you are probably still going to see weight regain. So we talk not only about weight management, weight maintenance, but also about maintenance. So it's not just about that preliminary loss, but it's also about creating a sustainable plan that allows you to continue seeing those benefits for as long as possible. That is the hard part. That is the hard part, because we all get really excited, these initial results. Sometimes you can, once you're seeing these wonderful results, you're seeing a drop in weight, and we're all excited and enthusiastic about it, we can slide back into some of those habits that may have been problematic, or may have slide back into some of those familiar patterns that contributed to the weight gain. So it's really important to think about this as a holistic picture. And I think that's one of the real strengths of the IDS team, is we have all these different disciplines who are looking at weight, thinking about weight, and so we're able to tackle it from a multi-specialty perspective. And what we know from research is that when we have all of these different core pillars, so of course we have nutrition, we have exercise, we have mental health, we have medications, we talked a little bit about that last session, and you have even support from groups. Also, all of these components are extremely effective at creating a long-term sustainable outcome, and also really getting to the core of what people are wanting to see, which is results. So let me kind of just pause here, give you a little overview of what we think about from the weight management perspective, but see if anybody's popping any questions into our chat as it relates to specific dietary strategies before I kind of pop into some of those. Alicia, anything to add so far?
Just that, like you said, the regain. I know I always say I've lost 800 pounds. 30 pounds at a time, dozens of times.
Yeah.
I always encourage people in any goal. It doesn't matter if it's exercise or diabetes management or weight loss or learning a language. What you do to achieve the goal is what is then required to maintain the goal. So if how you get to the goal is not sustainable for the rest of your life, potentially, it's probably not a great fit. You probably want to adjust that strategy and work with that more holistic approach to find other places where you can compensate and maintain.
Very good. Very good. I agree. It's I think one of the hard parts of thinking about weight management, because not only is the work to achieve results so difficult, but then continuing that to maintain results is, for a lot of people, even more challenging. So it's thinking about that. Of course, like minutes of physical activity for weight reduction is one thing, but then that number is even higher when we're talking about weight maintenance. So that can get, just from a scheduling perspective, even more challenging. All right, so let's hop in. I just want to kind of hit on some key strategies to think about from a systematic review that was done by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics a few years back. And what this is focused on is specifically strategies for weight management that have been proven in research to be very effective. And so I like to have conversations around weight about what is going to get results. And so these are some of the strategies that we can consider. So kind of don't think about these in any particular order, or if I start talking about this first, it's the best. Not necessarily true at all. I just want to give you a list of some of the ways that we're thinking about these, and I like to give you a full list so that you can consider kind of the full options. So starting at the top, small food-based changes. So thinking about smaller behavior changes, like swapping out a snack, eliminating a snack, swapping a food for something either lower nutrient density or something that might be a healthier choice compared to what your baseline looks like. We call that something that's a 100 to 200 calorie per day type of change. Pretty small change, but that can certainly add up over the course of time and help towards a weight maintenance goal. So that's not going to be a blockbuster strategy, but if we're kind of trying to work at this in the background, or you're working on some diabetes goals, In addition, this is a really great strategy to employ, just seeing how some simple swaps can be beneficial. The next one is one of my favorites because overall as a population, for those of you joining us in North America, we really struggle with fruit and vegetable intake. So we love our vegetables, we love our fruits for a variety of reasons. Of course, they're very nutrient dense, which means they have a ton of vitamins, a ton of minerals, wonderful fiber intake, depending on your vegetables. But all of these things are really valuable nutrients to your body, not weight loss foods. These are natural sources of really healthful, good antioxidants, good stuff that we need to be eating. And as a whole, as a population as a whole, we don't get enough of them. So when we're thinking about increasing our fruit and vegetable intake, not only can that reduce some of the foods that we're eating on our plate that have more calories and more energy, but eating more fruits and vegetables will also improve your satiety during meals and can assist with decreasing the total number of calories or the amount of energy that you're eating. Fruits and vegetables tend to be on the lower end of calories. So it's a win-win. You're getting a lot of bang for your buck in terms of nutrition, but also getting a whole lot of fiber, so it's a great strategy.
That was a big tool for me because I really have trouble sticking with anything that is a restrictive diet. Whenever it's like, don't eat this, don't eat that, don't cutting stuff. But when I flipped the script and started shooting every day for a fiber goal, then all of a sudden I would go to eat a snack and be like, but that's not going to get me any closer to my fiber goal. Okay, I got to change up the snack. Or at meal times, our whole family, it started going, you know what, if we're going to hit our fiber goals, there needs to be a lot less carb on this plate and a lot more veg. And so our whole kind of dining room picture started to shift a little bit, just kind of flipping that script, and healthy eating became less of a negative thing about what I couldn't buy and more of a healthy thing of flipping around things at the store and looking at what's the fiber content in this versus this. And
yeah,
your choices.
Alicia, I love how you're thinking about that, because a lot of times when we're thinking about weight loss, weight management, it's a kind of, we're framing it like as a reduction.
Yeah.
So when I'm creating goals with clients, a lot of times I try and keep it in a positive. So let's try eating more fruits and vegetables instead of saying, don't eat this, don't eat that, don't eat this. So if it can be an exciting and a positive way to explore foods or a new eating style, a lot of times that is just one kind of psychological tool that we can use to make it a little bit more exciting. And doing this in the long term, we want to keep many of those ideas as fresh as we possibly can. So that's a really great way of thinking about it. And I love pulling other people into the plan also. So if you're embarking on this journey, having other people who are supporting you is, oh my gosh, the invaluable tool. What is good for healthy eating benefits not only you, but your family. I can say that from the perspective of having parents, having a child of my own, like what is healthy nutrition is good for everyone. So don't think about it as only eating for diabetes. It's eating for wellness, which is what we all should be doing. So that's a really great piece. I see a couple pieces in chat, so I'm going to tackle some of those questions in chat that I see, and then I'll get back to some additional pieces on my list of other effective strategies, eating strategies for us to think about. So I see one here from, let's see, Tammy. Thank you for your question. Struggling with essentially trying to stay on the new routine, right? So you get really excited, you get invested in the plan, you get going, and then after about 2 weeks, it starts to get stale and feeling like, shoot, I get derailed. How do I kind of continue along? So I see this struggle often. So everyone's really excited to hop in and get started, but we've heard, it takes 21 days, 30 days to start a new habit. So how do you make something like that work? There's two things I like to try. First is creating a reward system for yourself that's not tied to food. So if I'm able to stick with this and measurable progress. If that's, you put a sticker on the fridge, if that's, you whatever it is, creating a reward. Maybe you go out and buy a new pair of shoes. Maybe you go out to the movies. Maybe you meet up with a friend for some coffee, or you create an event that you're excited to do. And that is the reward for continuing on the change that you are embarking on. So making sure that that's not a food-based reward. So what you don't want to do, what you want to avoid is saying, if I stick with this for 3 weeks, I'm going to treat myself to chocolate cake. That's not what we're trying to do. Just in general, we don't want to create food rewards. So that's one thing that I've seen can be really effective. I have somebody working on a whole list of different kind of tour, like attractions in their geographical area, or taking a day off from work, lots of different things that have been rewards personally. And the cool part about that is you get to decide what's meaningful to you. So the other thing that I like to suggest in this particular situation is choosing one day at a minimum, 1 day per week to do a monitoring activity. So if you just know, okay, things at work or things in general tend to be a little bit slower for me on this particular day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whatever day that is for you, you're gonna record yourself as an accountability tool. You're gonna record your food intake, you're gonna record your exercise intake for that particular day, so that as you get into week 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you still have that touch point with yourself, or even with one of us on the team, to kind of check in with your progress. So those 2 weeks don't go sitting in isolation. You have the opportunity to continue revisiting and monitoring with yourself about how things are going. So just kind of helping to keep the ball rolling there.
I love the monitoring, like just once a week. Like, I'm not going to do it all the time every day and make it like a whole thing, but once a week, I'm just going to look and say, like, honestly, self-check, how's it going?
Yeah.
That's really great. So, and I also I think my new self-reward is going to be a day off work.
There you go.
That's there you go.
You'll be people, having time to yourself is, for a lot of us, golden. Yeah. So I hear that one a lot. Just do a little time for my own headspace would be a treat. So that's a great reward to use. So
I also let people know, if you're doing anything that is so rigorous and so different, such a big shift that 2 weeks in you're burnout, it's probably not realistically sustainable anyway. So it's better to make a lot of little shifts over a lot of time than to make a massive shift and burn out. I call that crash diabetes, when people are like, I'm going to do everything perfect, and they're amazing for 2 weeks, and then they burn out and it's like everywhere again. We crash diet, we crash diabetes, we crash everything in life. We just try to go full bore, because that's kind of our culture. Our culture is all like, revolutionize your world. And it's like, revolutions take like decades.
For sure. It's so, sustainability is not something that's naturally built into, I think, first of all, our culture, to your point, but also into weight loss. I think everybody is like, hurry up, let's see results, let's do this thing. And then kind of whatever happens after that point, whatever that number is for a lot of people, is kind of less of a priority. So, but we want you to have results and keep them. That's if I'm doing my job well, that's what we're helping you do. So, okay, I see a couple questions about kind of thinking about treating lows. Of course, high glycemic choices, candies, a lot of these things are easily around in type 1 diabetes environments to treat lows. How do we think about deprioritizing candy as choices? How do we have other more healthful choices in their place? We got to think about swapping it out for something different. There are lots of things that we can use to treat low blood sugars. It doesn't have to be candy. So work with your IDS clinician to come up with a hypoglycemia plan for you. And if you find that candy is of a temptation, we can work to optimize and give you some other suggestions for things that will raise your glucose quickly, but may not be in that sweet category. So this is a tough one because for a lot of us, candy may not be part of the normal day-to-day things that we enjoy. And so lows can feel like a little time to treat yourself, but if that's working against you in a different way, it may be time to rethink your hypoglycemia plan.
Yeah, I used to use jelly beans, and it was a problem. It was a straight problem. I'd be like, oh no, hyperglycemia. Yes. And so I switched to candy that I switched to like cake decorating gel.
There you go.
Because it does the job. doesn't taste real great. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden I had a lot fewer lows because I started preventing them more because they were less fun to have.
Less
So
fun. Less fun. So that's just a kind of quick one for a sweet tooth, but I think there are a lot of different fruits that can be used if you're somebody who has a kind of an inclination for sweeter tastes. To make sure you have fresh fruits on hand. I know berries are often really good. Grapes tend to be pretty easy too, about 1 gram per grape, so that's easy to count, easy to kind of keep on hand, and even package up into a portion size so that you don't have the temptation of overdoing it. So some other things just to think about as substitutes for candy. Let's see. Looks like we have a question about daily fiber content. This is a good question. Actually, there are different fiber recommendations for different age groups. So just as a general sense, what I like to tell people as a rule of thumb is roughly 14 grams for about 1,000 calories. So if most of us are eating about 2,000 calories a day, we're trying to think somewhere between 28 and about 30 grams of fiber. It does change a little bit with age groups, but as a general rule of thumb, that's kind of what we like to think about. I'll tell you, not a whole lot of people are getting there. So you would be among the majority if you were not necessarily achieving that fiber goal. I probably don't hit my fiber goal every single day. It takes a concerted effort and whole grains and legumes to really get there. So it's worthwhile. It's certainly worthwhile, but it is a challenge. So if you've never tried tracking just your fiber intake, it's certainly worth a whirl.
yeah, that's my family started tracking just their fiber intake. Like that was the only macro I was paying, well, carb counting because D life,
Yeah.
but just fiber and just meal planning just to hit our fiber intake 5 out of 7 days a week was like a military campaign. Like it took so much planning and researching, and I was like, wow, like I never thought about fiber because it's all like fat and calories and carbs is like all we ever hear about. We never hear about fiber, but the health benefits and the satiety and things like that are so big that I was like, well, let's fiber focus on this.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, especially in type 1, we have kind of our carbohydrate goggles on at all times. Like, I don't know what you guys wear. Like, I look at plates and I see carbs. I don't really even always see the rest of what's on the plate. That's difficult to overcome as we're thinking about weight management, because the conversation shifts to, other nutrients, how much protein is there, how much fat is there. Those things contribute as well, but we're so focused on carbohydrates that being able to kind of remove those goggles after we've been so focused and so trained on that, it's tough. It's real tough. So thinking a little bit about taking a step back sometimes is helpful. All right, I know we're kind of getting close to the end of our time, so I'm going to read through a few more strategies, and if these poke any interest, we will elaborate on these. So next on the list here would be fast food. Reducing fast food intake tends to be very high energy types of food, very low nutrient density. So fast food can include not only just what we think about fast food chains, we think about pizza as part of fast food. A lot of people are carry out. It doesn't necessarily have to come from some of our usual culprits to be considered fast food. So thinking about just the amount of time that is spent eating foods from restaurants, even if that means the food is being eaten in your house, but being prepared at the restaurant, it still counts. So it matters.
COVID.
Yep. I see that one all the time. So portion control changes. There's a lot of different ways that we can do portion sizes. You may have in the past heard about exchanges and counting the exchanges as it relates to carbohydrates. That's probably a little bit maybe not our number one choice of how to do things these days, but as it relates to kind of controlling the amount of food we're eating, sometimes selecting individually packaged items or even single serving portion meals has been a very effective strategy. So whatever your level of a culinary skill can be, choosing a single serve meal or multiple single serve meals, depending on your calorie needs, is a really wonderful way to be able to have balanced nutrition, but also to reach calorie goals in a balanced way. So that's one of the things that can be surprising and a convenient option for a lot of people too. So that is one to think about. Kind of the big culprit, obviously, are the large macronutrient energy diets. This includes anything from just calorie reduction to low carb to Mediterranean to vegetarian, any diet, any diet that falls into this category. This is where we start to see, that intensive focus for a shorter period of time, 3 to 6 months doing something like this, successful, but then we start to see the weight regain. So Alicia was talking about, you apply a tool for weight loss, you have to maintain the tool in order to continue on that type of trajectory. So I'd say the most aggressive of these types of diets would be considered the low calorie diets and the very low calorie diets. And these types are the kind of, it's not misnomers, but we think about these as more the meal plans that are including particular shakes or kind of meal replacement strategies to really fine tune and keep the calorie level quite low. So that can be for a very low calorie diet under 800 calories per day, or a low calorie diet usually somewhere between 18 and 12 or 1200 calories per day. So sometimes those meal replacement strategies can be really effective, but a lot of times these are more shorter term types of plans. So bear that in mind. And when we are prescribing the very low calorie diets, so less than 800 calories a day with these, multiple shakes, that kind of thing, of course, you're going to see a lot of weight loss. But from a research perspective, we typically don't recommend something like that unless we have a body mass index of greater than 30. So we want to be careful with how we're applying those strategies based on kind of overall health and wellness as well. Let's see.
I would also step in there as a nurse, but just, we always hear it and it feels cheesy, but work with your medical team to find a diet plan that's going to work well for you. Especially if we've got other health concerns. You might be looking at, oh, well, I could do a really low carb plan, but you've got kidney risks. And so you shouldn't be slamming your body full of protein and maybe some of these shakes and things like that. Or, are you concerned about sodium levels? And, when we start to really reduce a lot of fats, we often start to increase our sodium intake. So working with your medical team can really be really important to make sure that you're getting the right plan for you that's not too aggressive in the wrong direction and could be causing you some other health risks as well.
Exactly. That's a really good point. Depending on kind of your individual labs, is selecting the right plan that's going to affect the cholesterol, your blood pressure, all of those, like you said, kidney profile, all of that is super, super valuable. So I always love to help people figure out what the right thing is to work for them, but I rarely know that based on your first interactions. Like, what should I eat? It's like, I don't know. I need more information to help you. But we love digging in and kind of getting a sense for what everyone loves to eat. I love food, and I want other people to love food and enjoy the foods that they love. So we have to create plans that, enjoy people to eat the foods that they love. That, for me, that's a huge quality of life piece that we can't remove. We can't remove that. So it's part of joy. It's part of, socialization. It's part of, bonding with other people, traditions that are very, very important to people. So I know that nutrition is an area of, kind of science and expertise, but there's a huge emotional component to food as well. So preserving that is important. So, all right. Well, thank you everyone for your attention and for your questions. This has been incredible. I hope it's been helpful for you. I look forward to joining again. Hopefully Alicia will have me back for another IDS Connections in the future, and we can keep the questions coming our way.
For sure. We're actually going to keep our sort of summer weight loss, weight management, and type 1 series kind of rolling on third Mondays. We'll be back on the first Monday of August with a fun night. We're going to do our diabetes blooper reel. So bring your fun mishaps, bring your silly stories, bring you're not going to believe it. We are going to start recording. And so when you get the invite to register for, for a session, take a look, scroll down. There will be a link to the video from the previous session in there. We missed last month's weight management and type 1 because my power outage kicked the recording off in the middle of the thing. But this one will be there. And so we will be back on the 3rd, the 1st with some just diabetes general stuff of each month. And then the 3rd is going to be a little bit of weight loss focus for the next couple of months. Again, stay safe with the summertime. If you're in the heat, make sure you're staying well hydrated. Your insulin can't get in your bloodstream. It has to ride fluid to do that. So stay well hydrated in the summer. And thanks so much for joining us. And everybody have a great night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.